Hello students, I'm Ritu. Today's video is about cue card. Talk about a situation where when you were lost in a city. There are 4 prompts for this cue card. The first prompt is when and where did it happen? Second is who was there with you? Third is explain how did you solve the situation? Fourth and the last prompt is how did you feel about it later? As you all know that we have 1 minute preparation time to answer the cue cards. So within 1 minute, the best way to answer the cue cards, in my opinion, is that you should be ready with the stories, because it is not necessary everything is your personal experience. So the best way is that we should be ready with the stories. So first of all, we'll think about the possible ideas for this cue card. What can be the ideas when you were lost in a city? So you can think about the situations if you go to crowded markets, if you are not in your city, because when you are in your city, you are familiar with the places, you are familiar with the routes. Other situation you can talk about is that you were too young, you were a child, you didn't have your own cell phone, you could not use navigation. Third situation can be that you can talk about that it was a family trip, you were traveling to another city and you were not familiar with the routes. So it was a family trip, you were traveling in a big group. That means there were 5 to 6 families. So there was so many people traveling together and you got lost. Next is how did you solve the situation? For solving the situation, we have to explain the situation also, that what was the situation. Situation could be that if you choose to talk about a crowded market, there are more chances that you can make an interesting story, that you were there in a crowded market, you all were busy shopping, and suddenly you entered into a shop, or you saw a toys shop, or you saw a book shop. You entered into that and you forgot that your friends or family was with you, and when you came out it was too late, they all had moved away. And the last question is how did you feel about it later? Obviously, when we make a mistake in our life, we always learn a lesson from that. So the first thing that comes in our mind when we make a mistake is that we learn a lesson from it, and we also thank God if we are able to recover from the situation, overcome the situation. So then we always thank God also. So these are some of the possible ideas. Now, it depends upon you whether you want to talk about that it was a school trip or it was a family trip. In my case, I'll be choosing that it was a school trip, because I think I'll easily get ideas if I'll talk about school trip. So I'll be giving you model answer for this cue card. There are 4 prompts, we all know. So I'll begin with the model answer. Yes, I remember that I got lost in a city. It was when I had gone to a school trip. The trip was, our school trip was to Delhi. It was an educational trip. I was too young. I was in class 8th and just 13 years old. So all my friends, teachers, classmates, my juniors, my seniors, they were there with me since it was a school trip. So we were traveling in a big group. I remember it was the last day of our trip, and that day was given to us for our shopping, so that we could go and do shopping. So we all chose a very popular market of Delhi. It was, in fact, it was a flea market where things were available at throwaway prices. It was a flea market. Since students, they don't have much money, so they chose that they'll be going to that market for shopping. So we all went for shopping in a big group. Our teachers were also accompanying us. The market was very crowded. It was, in fact, brimming with activity. There was a lot of hustle and bustle. There was so many people, shops. In fact, I should say it was a crowded market. It was like a maze. There were so many by lanes and lanes. It was very big market, like a maze. So we all started our shopping. We were enjoying it. We were moving from one shop to another, enjoying it. All of a sudden, I found a bookshop, and I, being an avid reader, entered into that shop because I was looking for some books, and suddenly I saw some books being displayed in that shop's window. So when I saw those books being displayed in the window, I entered and started searching for the books which I was desperate to buy. Luckily, I got some books which I was looking for. So I bought those books, I paid the bill, and I think I'd spent almost half an hour in my shopping. When I completed my shopping, when I had bought the books, I came out of the shop and saw my friends, my teachers, they were not around. Those who were accompanying me, they were not around. So I got panicky. I got to know that I have been lost or they have moved away, and now it will be very difficult for me to go out of this market, which I told you that was such a big market and such a crowded market. In fact, it was like a maze. So for a moment, I was really very much confused, but suddenly I thought about a plan. I went inside the shop and I asked shopkeeper for his phone, because at that time I was too young. I was in class 8th and just 13 years old. I didn't have my personal cell phone. So I asked shopkeeper that I wanted to make a call. Luckily, I remembered my teacher's phone number. I made a call from his phone, and I narrated entire story to my teacher. In fact, she was very much worried. She was looking for me. All my classmates and my teachers, they were very much worried and they were looking for me. So when I told them about my whereabouts, that I'm this particular shop, I gave them the name of the shop and the number of the shop. They suggested me to remain over there only, not to move anywhere from that shop. And within 5 to 10 minutes, they reached the shop and picked me away. Yes, they thanked the shopkeeper for his kind gesture that he allowed me to make a phone call from his phone, and they took me away. Yes, of course, I felt very much disappointed. In fact, earlier I was feeling very much disappointed. But when I got my teachers and friends back and when I met them, I thanked God in my heart of hearts. I really thanked God and promised myself that from next time I would not make such mistake. In fact, this mistake taught me a stringent lesson that next time I should be very much careful whenever I'll be traveling in a group. That's all for this cue card.